So let's talk paper for a moment. As you can tell from the slideshow on the Nuance Journals page, there are a lot of options. Why are there a lot of options? Because books serve many different purposes. First and foremost, let me explain the approach that I have toward paper. One of the most common questions I get as a bookbinder is, are these journals refillable? My response to this is no. Really, when you're buying a Nuance journal, the majority of my material cost is the paper. I pride myself on exotic papers and also really high quality papers. So Moleskine is doing what Moleskine does, or other commercial binders. They're using a lower grade, machine-made, cut-edge paper. From the beginning, I'm doing something totally different. I'm not trying to replace or compete with those other larger house producers. What I do is just for the pleasure of doing it. I use the papers I love to work with. Let me give you a quick overview of kind of what your options are. I don't always have all of these papers on hand, but if you're interested in a particular one, send me a message and I can order that one and do another set of those journals. So we have a color spectrum, a weight spectrum, and a texture spectrum. Let's start with those three. First of all, so this journal that I have here in my lap, this is a Nuance wine log. And so of course, instead of the papyrus, here you see this is a cork paper. I can talk about end papers in a minute. But we're going to look at the paper in the text block itself. This is a bright white paper. This is the only paper that I use that is bright white, simply because I generally prefer off-white, soft white, ivory, and colors. This one is for wine, and in my experience, people like to drip a drop of the wine on or hold the wine glass in front of a white surface so that you can evaluate the robe, etc., etc. This is 100% recycled, made by Fabriano in Italy. I think it's a great paper. Another example of a light paper that is also machine-made. So we have machine-made, handmade as a basic category. We're looking at all machine-made first. Now this one, this is a regular journal, this is a different Nuance journal, and so it's got papyrus, which is my favorite end paper. And this is, as you can see, it's a white paper, but it's not a bright white. Let's see, I have a little tiny example so we can contrast. I like the soft white and the off-white. And often I use inks that are not black. Let's see here. All right, so it's a subtle difference. Here we are, nuances. Bright white, soft white, and I don't know, one of the other examples. Okay, now let me transition and talk about colored papers. Now we move on to colored papers. I have two examples here of handmade, actually I have three examples of handmade colored papers. Example number one, we're going to start at the top. Why not? This paper is called Roma. This is one of the premier paper makers out of Italy. What I really like about this paper is that it has a lot of texture to the color, a lot of depth. It has a little bit of texture on the surface, but I love that it is not a uniform color. This paper, my favorites are probably this kind of warm, bricky, reddish type of color, and they do a wonderful blue color. This is top of the line. I use it almost exclusively for journals like this one that would be in my signature collection, These are often used for wedding guest books or a guest book for a second home, a mountain home, or really anything that would be a special display journal. I also can sell those with a specific pen set that would go with them. Now, this is an example of a colored paper that is in the dark range. So this is, what I have here is a little, oh, actually that's not a good example. Oh, I don't have good examples, I did. Okay, what I have here is an example of a dark page. So this would be a paper ideal for gold, copper, or silver, a light ink. There are a million options for these type of pens, either in a fountain pen, a dip pen, a roller ball, you name it. You can find pens that really feature nicely on a dark paper like this. This is a handmade Firenze paper out of Italy again. It's got a little bit of texture. You can see the chain lines here. This is from the old-fashioned paper making technique of having essentially a screen that you press the pulp into, and when you lift the finished paper out, it has the little markings for the screen. Now, whoops. Now I'm going to talk about one of the papers I adore. I adore it for a number of reasons. For one thing, again, I have my travel journal here. It is ideal to take on the road. When I found this paper, I was a little bit skeptical because, for one thing, it's difficult to tear. It's made from the bark of the loka tree that grows in Nepal. It's handmade, sustainably grown and harvested. The color is vegetable dyed. A few color options here to see. This wonderful, wonderful blue. This is an example of kind of a gold color. And then green. This paper, because it is long fiber, is very strong, even though it's very thin. For example, let's see. If I hold it up to the light, you can see that it's remarkably thin, but you can see those long curly grain lines. That means it's strong, and at the same time it's opaque. You only see through the page if you hold it up to the light. Okay. With this, I can make a journal with many pages that is still light as a feather. Pretty special for travel journals. It's a little bit expensive because it's handmade, it's all natural, and it comes from Nepal. For whatever reasons, it's expensive and it's worth every penny.